Letters from the front. A letter from Trooper Siddle, RFF Camp, 3rd Australian Bushman, Bulawayo, June the 21st, 1900. Quote, "It is now over 3 months since we started for South Africa, and I am afraid no nearer the war than when we enlisted. By all accounts, it will not be very long now before the Bushies are ordered home. I see by the Weekly Times that R. Clinton has joined the Imperial Bushies. From what I hear, they will be garrisoned in Rhodesia. If it is in some of the parts we pass through, they will have to put in a couple of years. They are to be pitied. Once October arrives, only a small percentage of horses the British South African police are supplied with annually manage to see the new year. And when they are alive, they are almost driven mad by ticks unless groomed for a couple of hours daily. In Rhodesia, horses must not be grazed while dew is on the grass, and never along the banks of a spruit or in a deep gully or donga. So far we have lost about 70 horses, while the New South Welshmen have lost about 200. The residents of this country generally have a fever on and off and lose about 2 months out of 12 months. Some of the higher parts are healthy enough, but on a hot day on the open sandy veldt with marshy ground here and there, the muggy atmosphere is soon noticeable. We left Marandellas on the 21st of May, B Squadron, about 100 strong. Got away the first of the Vics. I forgot to tell you before that my horse died at Beira. I had another allotted to me at Marandellas, but he's not nearly as good as Wallace. When we started for Bulawayo, we had 14 bullocks, a span in SA lingo, to each wagon, so we had a fair-sized caravan. We used to trek about 12 miles per day, travel from 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m, camp for the day, have breakfast and dinner, also turn horses out to graze, start again at 5 p.m. and keep going till 7 p.m, camp for the night, have tea and picket horses. Every alternate day we had flour issued to us instead of biscuits. We had to bake damper with it. Many is a laugh we had over the heavy sods turned out at the start, but as we went along we improved. At any wayside store we passed, we purchased baking powder, which lasted 2 men for a week's ration of flour. Places of note we passed were Charter, Altona, the Range, where a fort is being built and which will likely be garrisoned by Imperial Bushmen, Enkeldoorn, Sabakwe River, the boundary between the Matabele and Mashonas, Iron Mine Hill, where the New South Wales quartermaster died and was buried, Lalempanzi, Gwello, Shingani River. Major Wilson and party was cut off about 30 miles up from where we crossed the river when it was in flood while trying to make British camp in 1896 by Matabele. The whole party and Major were massacred. 10 miles south of Shingani River, we passed a monument raised in memory of 42 men, women and children who were murdered by natives in April 1896, and also to 2 soldiers who lost their lives in September 1896. We arrived at Bulawayo on the 13th of June at 4 p.m, having taken 23 days to travel only 280 miles. The evening we arrived here, all not on duty went to a free concert given to Australian troops then stationed here. The concert was held at the Wesleyan Church, a brick building about 25 feet by 50 feet with 2 or 3 arches at main entrance. The communion rail was decorated with British and United States flags, while on the end wall is a painting of lilies of the valley with a scroll bearing the words, "Worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness." The streets of Bulawayo are wide and in a few years will look okay, having been planted with trees only a year or 2 ago. There are several fine buildings. The Grand Hotel is second to none in Victoria for finish and luxuriance, although there are many larger. This is called Hussar Camp, a troop of Hussars having camped on the same spot in 1896. Wherever we go we find the Negroes in numbers. You can never give them enough stuff. Scoff. They have the best appetites on record. Throw away a bone, piece of bread or biscuit or an empty tin and they will make the most of it. They regard a piece of salt as a great treat. To look at them one would consider them quite harmless, yet they are the same race as led the British to much expense and trouble a few years back. Their clothing is a curious jumble, soldier and civilian dress put on holus bolus, some hats and others none. A coat and trousers here and there, but very rarely on the one Negro. Socks without boots and vice versa, a boot on one foot and perhaps a flash-coloured sock on the other. They all seem to be happier and always asking for gamma, meat. In camp here we get, or are supposed to, 1 pound of bread and 1 pound of fresh meat, about half bones. We get enough bread for the day to do us a good meal, and we buy it for the other 2. The 2-pound loaf now costs 1 shilling, butter 3 pence a pound, golden syrup 2 and 6 a tin, and other things equally dear. When our money is done, we shall have to do as the West Australian boys, crush the maize that is given to the horses and make porridge of it. If Tommy Atkins can thrive on British rations, they will find that the bushies cannot. We prefer biscuits and bully beef to the bread and fresh dog. We are always sure of getting full weight of the first named. Last Saturday night, several of us went uptown to get a good square meal. We got 4 courses, with bread and cake for 2 and 6. It was the best meal we had since we left the Euralis. There is a smoke concert on tonight, but I am on duty till 9:30 p.m, worst luck. The riding pants that the Victorian government supplied us with are rather tight around the knees, and most of them are busting into holes. Water is scarce here. We have 3 wells, but they are not deep enough and are generally dry before night. The horses have to go 2 or 3 miles to water. We are short of tents also, and some of our troops sleep in the open air. I'm one of the homeless ones. I'm writing this by candlelight on the bar of a canteen just erected. I expect it will be open by the time the Imperial Bushies get here. Colonel Carew is now commanding the Australian Bushmen. June the 24th, 30 Victorians moved off under orders today. We have to pack our kit and be in readiness by the morning. I think we go by rail to Mafeking. We have to get our full complement of ammunition before we start. That sounds reassuring, and we may have a little scrap of the war yet. W. Thompson is now a corporal. He is well, as also are Jarrett and Clark. We exchange all the kind and papers we get. It's been very cold the last 2 days, a keen wind blowing with occasional showers. A lot of the lads are down with colds. We managed to secure a tent last night. Okay, so we're at Flinders Street. Geez, I've been here as a teenager so many times. But if you come to Melbourne, this is the famous clocks at Flinders Street. If you want to meet someone in Melbourne, you say, I'll meet you under the clocks. And we're going to see the clocks. About now. So these would have to be pre-war. Belgrave, Lilydale. I mean, my mum would have met people under the clocks. So Flinders Street Station and Swanston Street is the heart of Melbourne. Now where we're going is at Cathedral. I think that's St. Paul's Cathedral. I don't think I've ever been there before. The day's sunny. It's a winter's sunny day in Melbourne. I thought I'd get the train from my place. It's pretty good actually. Put the headphones on, listen to some good music. There was heaps of people going to the footy. My team Hawthorn was playing the Kangaroos. So lots of people in Hawthorn colours. It really felt good. I imagined myself as a kid in the Hawthorn colours. Oh no. Anyway, let's go into the church and see if we can find this plaque to Lieutenant George somebody or another. And then we're going to walk up to the church where my parents were married. I've never been there before. I've been to the outside, it was never open. So So, and as I said, I don't think I've ever been inside this church. But anyone who's famous, who's had a state funeral, tends to have their service here. So, wow, eh? Oh, there's a woman at the gate. Maybe she can tell me. Hello, can you answer questions? I'm here to see a plaque for a soldier that was lost in the Boer War.
Yes.
Where would I find it?
Probably on that side.
Sure.
If you don't find it, let me know and I'll try and get out directly.
It'll be a bronze plaque or something.
Yeah, it should be around that side.
Thank you. I think I found it. Wow. Well, we know what to look for, don't we? Oh, man. So it's full of bronze plaques, isn't it? Wow. Well, this is Colonel Tom Price. He raised the Victorian mounted rifles. Well, we've seen a lot of them lately, haven't we? Well, look at that. Oh, look at that. I can't quite see it. Oh, I'm going to read it to you because we can't really see it from here, but it says, "To the glory of God, loving memory of Cymbeline Alonzo Edric Huddard, Royal Navy of the HMS Doris, South African station, youngest beloved son of Lois and James Huddard, killed at Melbourne. Born at Melbourne, 6th of January 1881, killed in action and buried at Grospan, Cape Colony on the 25th of November 1899, conspicuously service crossed, posthumously conferred by the King." Now we know the Doris because they used the Doris searchlights to guard the Boer prisoners in the episode we did the other day. But I'll read what it says. It says, "With deep regret, I have to report the death of Midshipman Huddard, who behaved magnificently and still advanced after he'd been twice wounded, till he was finally struck down mortally wounded. The Queen read with feelings of admiration and pride the record by his commanding officer and the noble conduct of your son, whose heroic but untimely death Her Majesty deeply regrets. The Doris sent one of the most gallant boys that ever lived, Midshipman Huddard, who, charging up the hill at Graspan, continued to advance after he had been twice wounded and at last fell mortally hurt in the moment of victory." That's an extract from the speech from the First Lord of the Admiralty. I think if we extend it, it's still recording. Yeah. You might be able to see. So I wasn't expecting that, but let's keep going. How crazy of me to say I think there might be one or two bronze plaques. Bloody hundreds of them. George Kirk. Now, I don't know what this is. Is it an Anglican church? Is it a Presbyterian? Something like that. I'm getting close, I reckon. Alcock. Rusden. Oh, close again. What was his name? George something. Lieutenant Colonel the Honourable Charles Carty Salmon. Oh, hang on. No. Well, Salmon, actually, yeah. Remember, have a look at the Talbot episode and you'll see Captain Salmon. Now, his brother was in the Victorian government. See that? Charles Carty Salmon, MLA, Member of Legislative Assembly. Now he's the one who called Barton, the first Prime Minister of Australia. He called him, because he was a personal friend, to the funeral of his brother Salmon in Talbot. So I reckon that's the same guy, Lieutenant Colonel. He's the brother of Captain Salmon of Talbot. Jesus, there's a lot more here than I thought. Perks. Wow. General Sir Harry Charbel, wow. No, that's the First World War one. Okay, well, we're getting a lot of them, aren't we? But we can't see the one we want, which is annoying. But, oh look, there's a whole heap over the other side, so I'll go to the other side. But you're getting to see the cathedral. Look at that. Wow, eh? Although, hang on, the way that woman bowed, maybe it's Catholic. There's a whole heap of them here too. Geez, you'd have to be wealthy to get your name here. Major Gallipoli veteran. And let me tell you folks, they'd go through, I reckon, a bottle of Brasso a month in this place. Robert Potter. Captain Stuart Kennedy, Duntroon. That's where my cousin Captain Carter went, to Duntroon. Bit of trivia for you folks. Captain Richard Carter. Oh, there's the lady. I think it was a lady. I think gender neutral, maybe. Yeah. We're getting close, I reckon. Oh, hang on. Oh no, almost. Reverend. I thought it was this one, but it's not. Robert Seller. John Evans. Oh, Jesus, there's a big bloody pit there. Look at that. It might be where you get baptised when they fill it with water. Well, that's not happening, so we're to go and ask the lady if she can help me. Okay, well, we'll go and ask this fella. Oh, hi. Can you help me? I'm trying to find a bronze plaque for someone called Lieutenant George Christensen, I think.
Okay.
I walked along that wall and I walked along that wall. Are there any other places you might be?
Did you check inside the McCartney Chapel, which is like at the very end of the cathedral there? They've got a few plaques, but I think that they're the former deans of the cathedral.
Right.
But that's the only other place I can think of there being plaques. Every once in a while there's one on the big pillar there, but I think that's to an organist.
This is a soldier, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, I'll walk around again. Thank you. Well, wouldn't you know it, it was the very first one we walked past. I'm touching it now. It says, "To the glory of God, and in affectionate remembrance of Lieutenant John George Crisp," that's the name, who was killed in action the 5th of November 1901 at Vryheid, South Africa. This memorial is erected as a token of honour and esteem by Janet Lady Clark and his comrades in the, I can't read that, Rupert's Wood Battery, Victorian Horse Artillery. So maybe he was in the artillery. I'm touching it now. Yeah, so we walked right past it with the very first plaque. So we've done that. Okay. What were we? Look at that, a cross from the grave of an unknown soldier. Alright, so that's good. That's fantastic we got here, and I'm glad we did, because yeah, there's heaps of interesting stuff here, isn't there? St. Paul's Cathedral in Melbourne. Okay, stop recording.